Hey everyone, in our game there's a lot of different tier 10 tanks, and no secret that the developers are always tweaking their stats. It used to be pretty stable and everyone got used to that, but now everything's changing at lightning speed. Even if a tank's stats haven't changed, it doesn't mean it's still as good in battles. Today I'm going to tell you about a few tier 10 tanks that you might want to hold off on researching for now because they've lost their relevance. Without further ado, let's get started. Opening this compilation, we've got the Polish medium tank CS63. Honestly, ever since this tank was introduced, it's felt pretty weak in battles, which is kind of strange considering developers like to introduce incredibly strong tanks and then nerf them in subsequent updates like what happened with the M6 or the Sheridan. But getting back to the CS63, I'd like to point out that the tank isn't terribly awful, and you can still do something with it in battle. That's why it's only ranked 5th. However, there are plenty of other tanks that are much stronger, and most importantly, much more interesting. Unfortunately, playing with the CS63 is a pretty dull affair. The tank doesn't have any incredible characteristics like STB1. Also, to make the most of this tank, you need to be a quite skilled player. On the upside, it does come with tungsten rounds consumables. And personally, what I liked about it is its fairly quick reverse speed. Overall, there's not much more to say about this tank, so let's move on. Suddenly, for the 4th spot, I decided to put the Soviet heavy tank IS-4. Yes, this tank got some improvements in the latest update. They improved its reload time and also gave the entire tree an improved engine booster. Did it help? I don't think so. Sure, the tank became faster and shoots a little quicker, but these changes affected it just like if you took the Maus, stripped its armor, and then gave it all the same upgrades that the IS-4 got. And what's the result? That's right, the worst heavy tank. If the developers really want to fix this tank, they need to significantly speed up the reload time, so that the DPM becomes around 3,300 units. Only then will it be an interesting tank. Right now, I don't see the point in researching it when we have the IS-7, which is stronger and more interesting in every aspect. And most importantly, the IS-7's tech tree is much simpler and faster to progress through than the IS-4. In general, it's best to forget about this tank until the developers improve it again. And if you want a similar gameplay, then you might want to consider the T110E5 and Type 71. These tanks are feeling great right now and are unlikely to be downgraded anytime soon. Let's move on. For the 3rd spot, I've chosen the French Baguette, the AMX-50B. I can already picture the hate comments coming in about this choice, but it's time to accept that this tank has lost its relevance, especially for newcomers and average skilled players. For them, this tank will be incredibly challenging to use. Handing out 4 shells when the reload time is 2.7 seconds is very tricky. And on top of that, the damage per shot is only 380 units. By the way, let me remind you that this is a heavy tank. Meanwhile, the Karo 45T also deals 380 damage per shot. But the Karo is a medium tank. Also, remember how the AMX-50B bounced shots before, when it was halfway grayed out in the reticle and somehow ricochets happened. But now its armor is on par with the FV-4005. It's sad to realize, but even the T-57 Heavy, which was supposedly nerfed recently, is now played better and more interestingly than the AMX-50B. I hope you understand what I mean. If you're a newcomer, you should forget about this tank. On the plus side, it does have a beautiful legendary camouflage, although it costs an incredible amount. Let's move on. You'll never guess what tank I've placed at number 2. But hey, I'll give you a chance. Pause the video and write your guesses in the comments. I'll randomly select 2 correct guesses and give them the VK16801P. Yes, just in time for the gravity mode, here's a new giveaway. Don't forget to include your nickname, account ID, and the server you play on. Let's continue. So, for the 2nd spot, I've chosen the Chinese light tank WZ-132-1. Well, did you guess it? Now, why did I decide that you shouldn't bother with this tank? It has a pretty mediocre gun, low damage per minute, poor accuracy, and just terrible gun depression angles. And also practically no armor. Sure, you might argue that it's a light tank and you should play it for spotting enemies and flanking, but guys, our game has 2 small maps. And the role of light tanks just gets overshadowed by incredibly strong medium tanks. There are only 2 exceptions. The super cool Bat-Chatilian with its cheaty 3-shell gun, and the Sheridan, which can take on even tank destroyers. All other light tanks are just useless. That's why I've placed the British Vickers Light at the top spot. Honestly, the difference between 1st and 2nd place is basically non-existent. I wouldn't recommend researching either of these light tanks. If I've already spoken about the Chinese tank, then, as for the Brit, the most important factor was its view range. Once upon a time, the Vickers Light had the highest view range in the game, giving it an incredible advantage in battle. And remember how it used to bounce shots with its turret? But as you can see, none of that remains from its past. The only thing it has left is somewhat powerful HE shells, and that's perhaps its only plus. But just think about it. It used to have 350 damage per shot, and now it's only 300. That's critically low. Even experienced players will hardly achieve anything in battle with this tank. It's simply unreasonably low damage. I believe this tank needs a reload time of 4 seconds. Thankfully, the developers have finally started to listen to players' opinions, and maybe someday they'll improve the Vickers Light. Well, it's been a while since I've had videos like this on my channel, and I hope you found it not only interesting, but most importantly useful, and that you'll make the right choice in favor of researching a good tank tree. Thanks for watching, see you soon, and don't forget about the giveaway. Bye for now.